In a quiet suburb, nestled between winding roads and towering trees, the house stood as a sanctuary of order and secrets. Every detail of its pristine exterior, from the groomed hedges to the freshly painted door, hinted at a life lived under vigilant care. Yet inside its walls, beneath the soft hum of domestic routine, a turbulent undercurrent of hidden truths stirred. This is the story of one mother, a woman whose intuition, once celebrated as a gift, evolved into an obsession that blurred the lines between protection and control. The morning light broke gently over the polished hardwood floors, and as the family awoke to the day's first whispers of possibility, Mother settled into her role. With her watchful eyes and careful hands, she orchestrated every small detail: the perfectly toasted breakfasts, the meticulously pressed uniforms, the reminders of both routine and ritual that knitted the family together. But beneath that measured exterior lurked an unyielding determination, a conviction that every secret, every stray thought or whispered rumor held the power to undermine the sanctity of her family life. In the living room, framed photos of past celebrations and sunlit vacations rested on a mantel that had witnessed decades of laughter, tears, and quiet moments of reflection. Yet even as the pictures celebrated family unity, they silently bore witness to the sacrifices and doubts that had been layered into the years. Mother, ever the diligent guardian, maintained a constant vigil. She listened intently to the low cadence of conversation, and even to the softer sighs that hinted at unspoken fears. Her intuition was more acute than most could ever hope to comprehend, but it came at a cost. That cost was the creeping erosion of trust, a slow unspooling of secrets that no one in the family could imagine, yet all experienced in the subtle shifts of tone when the dining table conversation stuttered, or when an unexplained glance exchanged between siblings hinted at an unvoiced truth. Every morning, her ritual began with a careful survey of the family's routine: a cup of steaming coffee in a favorite mug, an observant glance at each family member as they went about preparing for their day. It was during these moments that her mind wandered through a labyrinth of possibilities. Was the bright smile masking a hidden sorrow? Could a seemingly minor detail be the clue to something much darker? And so, as the family busied themselves with their everyday tasks, the mother traced a silent line between love and control, between the need to protect and the impulse to govern every nuance of life. The afternoon brought with it a subtle shift, a fleeting moment when a misplaced object, a stray note of a forgotten conversation, ignited the spark of suspicion. While the children played their quiet games in the attic, and the father returned briefly from a meeting with work's unyielding demands, Mother discovered an envelope tucked away in a drawer. Its contents were innocuous at first glance. A letter, yellowed with time and marked by an era that seemed distant, but as she read, her brow furrowed. The script was delicate, almost intimate, and while the words themselves spoke of concern and care, their context raised a question that could no longer be easily dismissed. Was someone trying to protect her from a truth too dangerous to confront, or was this a ploy to control her actions, to steer her down an irrevocable path? Every word of that letter resonated like a muted alarm bell in the corridors of her mind. As the afternoon sun cast elongated shadows across the living room, Mother's thoughts churned with images of betrayal intertwined with duty. Each recollection, each half-remembered detail from her own past, now appeared in a new, unsettling light. The gentle murmur of the television in the adjacent room, once background noise to the day's routine, now resembled a distant echo of secrets waiting to be unearthed. In that moment, the perfect order of domestic bliss began to crumble under the weight of an impending revelation. The narrative of the family, once a straightforward tale of nurturing love and secure routines, revealed layers of hidden narratives that stretched far back into the past. Memories of childhood, of distant days when the world was seen through the rose-tinted lens of innocence, clashed with the realization that no one is ever truly free from the overprotective reach of those who love too much. Mother recalled a time when she too had been a child, innocently trusting and yet also uniquely perceptive. In those earlier days, the cautionary words of her own caretaker had been both a comfort and a chain guiding her steps, and yet limiting her horizon. Now, as she pored over the letter that promised the uncovering of hushed truths, she was forced to confront the possibility that her own childhood, so long treasured and yet so shadowed by mystery, was woven into the intricate tapestry of the present. The scent of old paper and ink merged with the warmth of a fading afternoon, evoking a visceral reminder that every generation carries its own legacy of secrets. The thought emerged like a whisper in a crowded room. Perhaps what she had always believed to be the gift of intuition was in fact a burden passed down through time, a cautious inheritance that compelled her to continuously protect her family, no matter the personal cost, no matter the sacrifice. As dusk approached, transforming the once familiar surroundings into silhouettes and mysteries, tensions in the household grew palpable. The conversation at the dinner table had taken on a hesitancy, riddled with pauses and glances that spoke of unsaid things. Each bite of the carefully prepared meal now felt laden with an unspoken inquiry. How safe was the sanctuary really? Fabricated smiles mingled with furtive looks, as the underlying dialogue hinted at dark, buried truths that were determined to emerge. Mother, determined to reconcile the love and the latent fear coexisting within her, began to subtly orchestrate a dialogue, a series of gentle questions intended to decipher whether the letter was indeed an isolated anomaly or a harbinger of deeper familial fractures. "Isn't it strange," she began softly, her tone both melodic and investigative, "how even the smallest detail in our lives can sometimes unravel the grand design we so carefully construct?" Her words drifted around the room like tendrils of fog, and in the silence that followed, each family member became both respondent and suspect in a play of hidden motives. The father's eyes shifted uneasily, as if uncertain whether to defend the sanctity of the arranged order or to admit that even he sensed something amiss. The children, once carefree in their innocence, now exchanged glances heavy with premature understanding. In this charged atmosphere, it became evident that the letter was merely a symptom of a larger narrative, a narrative in which each individual, shielded by love and haunted by the desire for protection, risked becoming both victim and perpetrator. Night settled over the household with a weight that pressed upon every soul within. In the solitude of her private study, Mother sat beneath a solitary lamp, surrounded by the comforting clutter of mementos, old photographs, handwritten letters, and diaries that chronicled years of family history. The quiet murmur of the past seemed to seep through the walls, voices once stilled by time, now stirring to confront unresolved pain and unhealed wounds. Here, in the dim glow of memory and regret, her intuition morphed into an all-consuming obsession. Each page she turned in the diary was a doorway into the labyrinth of her inner life, a gentle reminder that the need to protect was often tainted by a desire to govern every shadow of doubt. As the ink bled onto the pages, merging past with present, she pondered the cost of her vigilance. Was her relentless pursuit of control truly in service of the family's well-being, or was it a manifestation of her unresolved own fears? The ticking clock on the wall seemed to count down the seconds until an inevitable reckoning, a moment when the secrets, carefully guarded and smartly concealed, could no longer remain hidden behind layers of routine and well-practiced suppression. The obsession grew in intensity with each passing hour. It was no longer enough to simply notice the anomalies. She needed to dissect them, to trace every nuance back to its origin, every creak in the hallway, every misplaced object, every whispered conversation behind closed doors. These details transformed into cryptic symbols in a larger code, a code that only she, in her singular resolve, could decipher. As the night deepened, her thoughts cycled repeatedly through a singular disquieting refrain. How far would she go to keep her family safe? The answer, she feared, lay hidden not in the meticulous execution of her duties, but in the very core of her obsession. By the early hours of a new day, a palpable transformation had overtaken the household. The once comforting embrace of routine now carried the tinge of paranoia and uncertainty. Each family member, caught in the middle of a subtle war between trust and suspicion, felt the invisible hand of control press upon them with an almost physical force. The children, still grappling with the innocence of youth, sensed that the safe harbor they had known was now adrift in a sea of secrets. The father, balancing duty and his own internal doubts, found himself increasingly alienated in a home that suddenly seemed too rigid, too haunted by the relics of past fears. Mother, in the midst of orchestrating yet another carefully measured interaction, realized with a mix of dread and clarity that the very nature of her intuition had metamorphosed from a benign guide into a tyrannical force. She recalled echoes of advice from her own childhood, when maternal instincts were heralded as protective shields, never as instruments of isolation or control. Now, standing on the precipice of a truth she had long evaded, she was forced to ponder whether safeguarding her family had become synonymous with imprisoning them within the confines of her obsessive vigilance. Every gesture, every measured pause, every scrutinized glance was now laden with the heavy burden of unspoken dread. The precarious balance of love and authority teetered on the edge of collapse, and in each heartbeat resounded the quiet question, what is the price of safety when safeguards are built on secrets and manipulation? In the soft, diffused light of mid-morning, the tension reached a fevered pitch. The living room, once a stage for everyday routines, transformed into a theater for truths to be revealed. The family gathered for a meeting that was as unexpected as it was necessary. Mother, standing before them with a measured resolve, looked each person in the eye, as if searching for remnants of trust in a landscape muddied by suspicion. She began to speak in a tone that oscillated between gentle inquiry and firm declaration. Over the years she started, her voice resonant with both sorrow and determination. We have all carried burdens in silence. There are moments when secrets meant to keep us safe become chains that bind us to our past. The room was hushed as she detailed the discovery of the old letter, a relic from a time long past, which now emerged as a catalyst for the unspoken. She recounted the nuances of the message, the curious choice of words, the deliberate subtlety of its tone. As she wove the narrative together, every listener felt the gravity of her words settle in like a stone, heavy and unyielding. The father's face betrayed a struggle between his instinct to shield the family from further discord and the undeniable pull to confront the emerging truth. The children exchanged tentative looks, drawn into a conversation that seemed far beyond their years, yet inescapably part of their shared destiny. In that moment of raw vulnerability, the boundaries between protector and prisoner blurred. Each family member had to reconcile the love they felt with the realization that sometimes even those closest to us might be complicit in the creation of barriers that limit our freedom. Mother's voice softened as she continued. Sometimes the very things we cling to for comfort, our routines, our traditions, even our secrets, can become the instruments of our downfall if we let them. We must ask ourselves, what price are we willing to pay for a sense of security, and how many of us have lost ourselves in the process? Her words echoed through the room like a somber melody, unraveling years of held-back emotions, fears and desires for autonomy. For a long, pregnant pause, the silence that followed was filled only by the quiet hum of the house and the distant echoes of memories too potent to ignore. In that silence it became clear that the confrontation was not just with an anonymous past or an elusive truth. It was a reckoning with the very nature of love and control, of nurturing versus overpowering. The family, now laid bare by the force of a hidden truth, stood together in the shifting light of a new understanding. As the confrontation waned, A tentative calm settled over the household, with the shadows of eternal secrets receding. In the light of honest dialogue, a fragile hope began to emerge. The day's conversations, fraught with both pain and relief, opened the door to a future where trust would be painstakingly rebuilt, piece by piece. Mother realized that true protection did not come from an obsessive need to control every detail or to imprison loved ones behind walls of secrecy. Instead, protection flourished when built upon a foundation of shared truths and open hearts, a safety that allowed each member to grow and evolve without the weight of unspoken fears. In the ensuing days, as the family navigated the aftermath of the revelations, subtle yet transformative changes took root. Breakfast conversations began to include moments of genuine laughter, and the previously heavy atmosphere gave way to a cautious optimism. Mother adjusted her approach, striving to blend her innate intuition with a newfound respect for the autonomy of those she loved. The meticulously drawn lines that had once separated protection from oppression slowly blurred into hues of compromise and mutual understanding. Yet the echo of that fateful day remained, a poignant reminder that secrets, when allowed to fester, can morph into instruments of control, distorting the very essence of care. This is the legacy of the past, a delicate tapestry of love, fear, and the desperate desire to protect that can easily tip into obsession. The memory of the letter and the cascade of revelations it unleashed became a silent lesson. Every secret carries a weight, and sometimes the cost of safety can be the freedom to simply be. In the twilight of that transformational period, the essence of the family was recast in a different light. No longer bound by an unyielding need to manage every aspect of life, they learned to navigate the complexities of trust and vulnerability. Mother, though still vigilant, discovered that the gentle art of letting go was as crucial as the instinct to guard. It was in the small, tender moments, a shared smile, a loving embrace, or the quiet act of listening, that the true meaning of protection was redefined. This story, interwoven with suspense, gentle revelations, and the bittersweet interplay of memory and desire, serves as a reminder that the line between safeguarding and controlling is incredibly thin. In the search for security, even the purest intentions can transform into an unrelenting obsession, creating a labyrinth where every corridor hides both comfort and trepidation. And so the house, with its polished veneer and carefully preserved secrets, stands as a testament to the human condition, a poignant blend of duty, fear, love, and ultimately the hope that shared truths might lead to a better tomorrow. As the gentle rhythm of everyday life resumed its flow, with each moment both ordinary and extraordinary, the family embarked on a journey towards healing. The scars of the past, though not easily forgotten, became part of a mosaic, a nuanced reflection of the cost of protection and the price sometimes paid for the illusion of control. And even as new challenges silently crept into the fabric of daily existence, there was solace in the knowledge that, together, they could face the uncertain future, armed with resilience, empathy, and a desire to let love guide them, rather than an unyielding urge to shield them from every conceivable secret. In the final analysis, Mother's story is not one of simple good versus evil, nor of unambiguous right or wrong. It is a layered exploration of the human heart, of the delicate interplay between care and control, instinct and obsession, safety and freedom. It invites each listener to reflect on their own childhood memories, their sheltering bonds, and the subtle ways in which the desire to protect can sometimes become a force that confines rather than liberates. For in the end, the question remains, how far would you go in love and fear to keep the ones you cherish safe? And so, as you step away from these echoes of a troubled yet hopeful past, remember that while some secrets are kept to protect us, others may hold the power to control us. The path forward, illuminated by the gentle glow of truth and understanding, is one that each heart must traverse, guided by the hope that even in the darkness of long-held secrets, The light of shared honesty can ultimately lead to freedom and true belonging.